Good afternoon. I am Scott Hartema. I'm the Vice President of the Board, and I want to thank you all for being here today. I do want to clarify one thing. Just because we have round tables doesn't mean we're serving you food, okay? We had overlap between a luncheon and this group, so we just decided to leave in this configuration. So thank you for being here, and thank you for all the input that you've provided between the strategic planning survey, the focus groups. The committee has gone through a tremendous amount of information that has been received from the community and the research that they've done, what's going on in the industry, the economy, and various other things. So it's been a long time coming. Appreciate your patience, and the group's done a tremendous job and put a tremendous amount of time and effort into it. I'm going to introduce the chairman of the Strategic Planning Committee, who will make the presentation, Mr. Phil Riley. And he will introduce the rest of the group, and we'll get going and Q&A after the presentation, right, Phil? All right, here we go. Thank you.
Can everybody hear me? Is this a little better? There we go. Well, good afternoon. As Scott mentioned, I'm Phil Riley. I'm the chairman of the Strategic Planning Committee. You may hear me say SPC. That is not the Society for the Prevention of Cruelty. There's been a lot of cruelty around this project, but that all ends today. I'd like to welcome you to our presentation today, and thank you for coming. If you've not yet had a chance to review the strategic plan that is posted on the Community Club website, I urge you to do so. It has all of the details behind the presentation today. Today I'll be presenting the strategic plan in summary, followed by plenty of time for your questions and answers. In the fourth quarter of 2022, the Board of Directors appointed private club associates to assist us in the development of a strategic plan for Fairfield Glade. The board also revised the SPC charter and appointed the committee that I'll introduce to you at this time. If you folks would stand and introduce yourselves. In addition, David Urban and Bruce Clockers are members of the committee who are unable to be here today, and Barbara Brown served until the fourth quarter of last year. Ted Robinson and Tim Dunlap were helping us from PCA, and in addition to them, Steve Paris unfortunately and tragically passed away in the fourth quarter of last year, and we miss his valuable insights. Why should we have a strategic plan? Well, it creates one forward-focused vision, one sheet of music that the community club staff, management, board of directors, committees, and membership can play from. It draws attention to biases and flaws in reasoning. It enables us to objectively track progress against stated goals, and it enables us to focus our capital investments in a way that enhances our ability to accomplish our mission and vision. American playwright Wilson Misner once said, "If you steal from one person, it's plagiarism. If you steal from many, it's research." And let me tell you that we've done quite a bit of research for this project. We've created an economic outlook. We've looked at the competitive landscape. We've looked at industry trends within property owners associations and private clubs. We've done some growth projections. We've done a strategic member survey, one of several that has happened in the last decade. And we have reviewed the previous strategic plans that Fairfield Glade has in place. And I'll give great credit to the preceding strategic planning committees who had great work output. We've also done interviews. We've interviewed each board member. We've interviewed all of the senior management team, and we've interviewed some of the staff. We've interviewed folks that are with affiliate organizations, such as Fairfield Glade Resident Services, Good Samaritan, et cetera. Also external stakeholders, the realty community, the Chamber of Commerce, the county government. We've had focus groups that contain membership that was perhaps newcomers, old-timers, and I mean that in terms of tenure of residents, special interests, golf, pickleball, et cetera. And we did 2 site visits, one to Fripp Island, South Carolina, and one to Tellico Village over on the eastern part of the state. Let's take a look at our economic outlook. As we all know, inflation is top of mind right now. It impacts the Glade's operating expenses, especially supplies, salaries, and wages. The rate of inflation is decreasing, but the cost of our goods and services remains high. For example, since 2020, fryer oil, which makes those wonderful French fries we like to eat, is up 169%. Bacon's up 72%. Fertilizer's up 51%. And who knew? Weed killer has increased by nearly 300%. On the housing front, those interest rates have already been felt in home sales at Fairfield Glade. Our unemployment in this county remains low, but all that does is exacerbate already challenging workforce challenges that we have. We do anticipate some positive growth here in Cumberland County and Crossville, activity as evidenced by the development of Buc-ee's, Flat Rock Motorsports, Whisper Arrow, and other county developments. Let's look at our competition. Our principal regional competition are Tellico Village, Wind River, and Jasper Highlands. With our amenity portfolio and low cost of living, we believe we compare very favorably to those properties. Successfully moving to fulfill our vision will mitigate concern about competition. The SBC also looked at trends in the private club industry and the property owners associations. Our research revealed that across the country, community associations have been focusing on greater use of technology to improve member services and reduce cost. Cybersecurity has gone to top of the agenda in the 21st century, and scammers are targeting Fairfield Glade with increasing frequency. In addition, community associations are increasingly focused on disaster readiness, and we all can see that weather is more frequently the lead story on our nightly news. Finally, it's no surprise that rising costs and project delays due to supply chain challenges are plaguing HOAs and POAs across the country. Let's take a look at our growth here in Fairfield Glade. We are growing at a rate over twice that of Crossville and Cumberland County, and we will be larger than Crossville in the mid-2030s. Careful monitoring of our growth will be critical over the coming decades to ensure that our population growth does not outrun our infrastructure and amenity capacity. Growth is the #1 external factor influencing Fairfield Glade's future. Next, we'll review the interviews we conducted. It's quite a list. The interviews represent the most comprehensive effort in Fairfield Glade history to seek input from key constituencies. This candid feedback provided a major information baseline for the direction of the plan, and we had consistent themes throughout our diverse groups that we interviewed. It seems that all of our constituencies have the same view of Fairfield Glade and its programs, from the Crossville Chamber of Commerce to the fire department to the newest members. We also conducted a strategic survey to get information directly from the membership. It provides the most detailed look at the opinions of the members of our community. These top 10 concerns are in line with most other communities in the U.S. What makes the Glade different is that we have a community club governance model versus a political entity that has a personal and financial interest in the success of our community. Other concerns revealed by the survey were food and beverage disappointments, loss of gathering places, increasing prices, roads, pickleball compression, and our community center, this center that we are in right now. The SPC examined foundational elements which form the basis for defining who we are and what we do: our business, our vision, our mission, and our core values. One of the questions we asked all of the groups and individuals we interview is, what business is Fairfield Glade in? From all of these inputs, we determined that we are in the business of building and maintaining a thriving community. This statement represents our focus on the future and our commitment to keep the Fairfield Glade a high-quality community. Fairfield Glade has enjoyed national recognition for many years. This strategic planning effort is designed to keep that record going on an upward trajectory. Our vision is that Fairfield Glade will be recognized as one of the best vibrant and growing lifestyle communities in the United States. Our mission is to provide members and guests an enjoyable and secure environment with a wide variety of high-quality resort-style amenities and facilities. We will responsibly manage our natural resources and ensure financial stability. We will also foster an active social and recreational experience while delivering on our core value promises and building a strong sense of community. These core values are the basis for what we do as a board, senior management team, members, and employees. The SPC believes that these values remain pertinent to our community. But we did tweak the language in core value number 9 to place greater emphasis on our relationships with surrounding communities. Once the foundational elements have been defined, we turned our focus to evaluating the community club's current state. We began by identifying and evaluating the community club's strengths and weaknesses and the external factors that represent opportunities or threats. Following that process, we began to synthesize all of our research into recommended strategies with a strong focus on 7 specific areas. Let's take a look at our SWOT analysis. As you know, strengths are internal attributes and resources that support a successful outcome, such as the quality of our amenities and the strength of our customer service. Weaknesses are internal factors that make success more difficult to obtain, such as excessive debt or inadequate staff training. Opportunities are external factors that the organization can capitalize or take advantage of, such as new enabling technologies or increasing regional interest in golf or pickleball. Threats are external factors that could jeopardize our success, such as escalating costs, weakening demand, or increasing competition. Our strengths are substantial. Top of the list are 3 areas that represent the majority of the reasons that all of us moved here. We're in a wonderful location. We have mild climate, beautiful landscape. We're within a day's drive of half of the population of the United States. And we live in one of the lowest tax counties in the country. We have a beautiful amenity portfolio: golf, racket sports, hiking, lakes. We have financial strength. We are solvent, which is more than a lot of the property owners associations in the country can say. And we have just recently put in place a 10-year capital plan that should meet our needs for the next decade. The Fairfield Glade Board has strongly adhered to the core values that were overwhelmingly approved by the membership and has prudently brought in outside help in our most critical areas. The Fairfield Glade Community Club has a senior management team that is long of tenure and deep in expertise. We do have some weaknesses that require attention. We have no online tea time reservation system, one full-service restaurant, insufficient gathering places for members and guests to enjoy social activities. Growth of the community increases compression across all of our amenities, and at some point, that demand will exceed our capacity. Over the past 7 years, our expenses have slightly outpaced the growth of our revenues. But inflationary pressures, population growth, and the pandemic, deferred expenses as a result of the pandemic have made this gap worse than it was. For senior leadership, that is the board of directors, general management, senior management team, and committees, training programs are insufficient or absent. And finally, there's a persistent perception that our board of directors lacks transparency, and absent a written responsibility matrix, they spend too much of their time on tactical rather than strategic items. We also have a wealth of opportunities. We can minimize costs to existing members and place the major burden of sourcing of new funds on home purchasers and non-member user fees. The new Golf Performance Center and the Druid Hills complex will significantly enhance member and visitor experience. And implementing a formal performance management system will help us to mitigate workforce challenges and enhance member services. Threats also exist for us. The shortage of and competition for qualified applicants will continue to be challenging as vacancies occur across the entire FGCC team. This impacts all departments and has a detrimental effect on the quality of service we provide. Long-term meteorological trends coupled with human adaptation to rising temperatures will negatively influence the demand for and supply of water. As recently as yesterday, we all received a request from Crab Orchard to conserve water. A rise in wildfire activity may increase air quality related health risks and increase a risk of infrastructure and property damage. The surrounding rural community has limited shopping, restaurants, and entertainment. Relatively high poverty levels and poor public school performance may make the area less attractive to potential homeowners and employers. And finally, and perhaps most concerning, our members' perception of the quality of life here at Fairfield Glade has slightly declined over the last decade. Just as our vision provides an aspirational description of what we want to become, and the mission and core values describe who we are and what we value, the strategic imperatives set forth the how we will get there to accomplish the mission and achieve the vision. Based on the information obtained from multiple sources of data and community inputs, the SPC has created a forward-looking document that outlines a number of key imperatives that will guide FGCC into the next decade. Again, we encourage you to review the full strategic plan, which will lend greater detail to these imperatives. Annual updates and progress reports to these will provide and reinforce a sharper focus on the plan over time. According to the 2023 Fairfield Glade Community Club survey, 2 of the top 5 member concerns are governance and management. Survey comments in almost all the interviews that we conducted cited the focus by the board of directors on operational issues as a remedial opportunity. This focus has translated into a heavy board of directors workload, decreased decision velocity, and a perceived lack of responsiveness and transparency. In addition, the most important component of FGCC operating model is our workforce. They manufacture and deliver the services that the community club provides, and we receive and they represent our largest single cost category. Increasing competence, efficiency, and teamwork within our labor pool will enhance positive outcomes across all of our strategic objectives. Financial stability is an essential attribute of any organization. Maintaining and improving the financial stability of a growing community club such as Fairfield Glade is imperative for the current and future success of our organization. Financial targets that reflect the needs of current residents and guests, as well as future property owners, must be established to achieve positive operational financial performance and comfortable financial reserves for long-term asset replacement and new investment. Both day-to-day operational goals and capital management for future needs require financial discipline and structural planning. The Fairfield Glade Community Club will be a financially viable and stable organization with a strong financial position. Financial plans and strategies will reflect the mission and core values of the organization and will be woven into the performance objectives throughout the team. Over the last decade, our revenue model has been a mix of annual member assessments and user fees, such as what we pay for a hamburger or a round of golf. While the average mix has been 57% user fees, 43% assessments, last year only 38% of the burden was borne by assessments. And Fairfield Glade is in the bottom quartile of similar communities as it relates to member assessment. The recently announced 10-year capital plan is a great step in the right direction. Health and safety are among the most significant concerns of community club members, and emergency preparedness is one of the most prominent issues among homeowners associations today. These concerns are the focus of this strategic imperative. Through thoughtful, targeted, and appropriate partnerships, both formal and informal, Fairfield Glade should collaborate with and encourage Good Samaritan, Cumberland Medical Center, and the local healthcare community to develop new models of care, enhance existing services, develop new services, assist in the recruitment of medical personnel, anticipate and accommodate community growth, and introduce direct-to-patient technologies and higher standards of elder care. Healthcare is our #1 concern. In addition, the community club will foster, encourage, and sponsor greater collaboration among police, fire, EMS, and other first responder organizations serving Fairfield Glade residents. Preparing for disasters saves countless lives, speeds up people's recovery, and saves money. According to the American Red Cross, the need to prepare for a world of unexpected shocks has become clearer than ever. Epidemics, floods, storms, droughts, and wildfires are all expected to become more frequent and severe, affecting hundreds of millions of people every year, including those of us here at Fairfield Glade. Technology is a key component of the member guest experience at Fairfield Glade, and a significant factor in ensuring operational success across all of our services and amenities. According to the 2020 decennial census, 95.6% of Fairfield Glade households have access to a computer, slightly higher than the national average. The continued emergence of self-service applications across all types of activities requires Fairfield Glade to embrace current technology to provide enhanced services to our members and guests. This strategic imperative will drive greater efficiency, lower operating costs, and enhance the member guest experience. If we do not keep up with technological change, we will fall behind peer communities and increasingly miss opportunities to improve Fairfield Glade. New technology is faster, cheaper, more efficient, and more relevant. Staying with your old technology while your competitors stay updated means we are slower and less efficient. Lost time means lost opportunities and income. Looking across the country and the globe, we see that the cities and regions that are thriving are those investing in critical infrastructure such as roads, sidewalks, parks, and recreation, water, energy, and communications that connect people and goods to social opportunity. At the same time, we know that a poorly designed infrastructure program can inhibit the shared prosperity, economic growth, and community development that we all seek. This strategic imperative addresses the maintenance, improvement, and development of Fairfield Glades roads and bridges, dams and lakes, facilities, green spaces, utilities, and environment. Our principal driver here is growth. Fairfield Glades' current compound annual population growth rate is 3.03%. In comparison, Crossville and Cumberland County have growth rates that are less than half that. Our projected population in 2034 is nearly 14,000, or 52% higher than it was in 2020. We will surpass Crossville's population shortly thereafter. Fairfield Glade doubles in size every 23 years. We will determine Fairfield Glade's optimum growth trajectory and how the infrastructure can continuously accommodate that growth while enhancing overall quality through demand management, expansion, improvement, third-party negotiations with folks like utilities and internet providers, and combinations thereof. According to the Fairfield Glade Community Club Charter, the purpose of the Fairfield Glade Community Club is, quote, to construct, maintain, and operate recreational facilities, close quote. Further, community surveys over the last decade have consistently shown that about 90% of our members want our amenities to be above average. About 2/3 prefer amenities that are among the top tier or equal to the area's best. Last year, the Sports and Fitness Industry Association reported that a total of 242 million people in the United States, nearly 80% of the population over the age of 6, participated in at least one sports or fitness activity in 2023, making it the highest number of people that have ever participated in an activity in 1 year. What's more, the number of Americans who participated in an activity has increased every single year for the last 10 years, growing by 5 million in 2023. Pickleball, golf, hiking, bicycling, kayaking, and yes, bocce ball will continue to enjoy high rates of growth across the country. This strategic imperative addresses our amenities. Much of Fairfield Glades' character is created by our visible land use patterns. This strategic imperative focuses on the use of open spaces, Fairfield Glade-owned lots, recreational parks, scenic areas, and roadside landscaping initiatives to enhance the desirability of living at Fairfield Glade. The Fairfield Glade Community Club is not in our world alone. Wyndham Resorts and FGH Land Tennessee are with us in what some have described as a symbiotic relationship. We are a growing, thriving community, and we must be willing to adapt to changing conditions with our strategic partners. We will pursue the development of a comprehensive Fairfield Glade Community Master Plan with community stakeholders, including participation from community club membership, the declarant, Wyndham Resorts, and Cumberland County. Thank you for the dead silence. We'll now take questions. If you can come to the microphone here. We got, excuse me, the lady in the back there was first.
There's Johnny on the spot, or Patty on the spot. Anyway, I'm a resident, serve as a guest, and I was going to say maybe an answer to some of your guest technology problems. I came here as a guest. I went to the local library because that's where I go to use a computer. Not only does our library not have computers for guests, they don't even have computers to check in and out books. So I'm suggesting that maybe adding computers to the system and helping the library system along and expanding their hours is one of your solutions. My other questions for you are, is your priority for the guests who come here to Fairfield Glade, are for the residents who live here year-round? And then my other question would be...
Let me
Okay,
answer that.
please.
There really isn't a priority. When the way that our covenants and restrictions are written basically says that an interval owner, okay, timeshare visitor, and I'm assuming when you say guests, you're not talking about your guests, you're talking about timeshare visitors, are basically members of this community club while they're here during their interval. So the answer is there really isn't a priority. They're all members, and we hope that, you know, we provide the same level of service to all of our members. So you had one more?
I have one more. I did understand when you spoke of adding to house prices to help facilitate growth or more stuff. But I had also heard a rumor, and I apologize for not reading. Is it true that we now have to add $5,000 to selling our homes? Because I'm just curious as to why. I get why you would require more money to purchase a house, but not why I would have to pay extra to sell my house.
That's a great question.
Thank you, sir.
The answer to that question is somewhat complex, and let me go ahead. Everybody's been beating on the board for making that decision, and the board did actually make the decision, but the recommendation came from the Strategic Planning Committee. There are a limited number of ways that Fairfield Glade can obtain capital. So, for example, your monthly assessment has a cap. 25% of that can go to capital, not a penny more. And right now, we've had a couple of years in the past where it was maybe 23%, but that 25% is going to capital. The second way that we can get capital is through our amenity fees, but that's after we've covered the cost of running those amenities. And in some cases, we're not making any more. We're subsidizing that amenity. Everybody knows that we subsidize food and beverage, for example. So that's out. The third way is probably one that will cause heartbeats to go up in this room. That's a special assessment. That's when you get everybody together and you vote and you say, okay, instead of just your regular assessment, now there's going to be this special assessment. That's probably the least desirable way to raise capital. That only leaves one more, and it's called the amenity reserve fee. In some communities, my wife and I looked at one in Texas, that reserve fee was $25,000, and there was a minimum deed in the restaurant. We decided not to do that. This is something that only impacts property transfers, and it is a key part of our 10-year capital plan. So that's kind of the answer. We could raise the assessment such that that 25% would represent, and then we'd have more money in the operating side and then we could expend. We can do a special assessment or we can go to the amenity reserve fee. There really aren't any other ways that are practical for us to get capital funds.
Nico Sergio, community club member since 2005. On page III of the 2024 strategic plan, number 6, amenities, continuously monitor and expand amenities to meet member demand and trends in dining, senior sports, and recreational activities. Number 7, land use. Collaborate with key stakeholders to align land use plans with community goals and enhance the overall attractiveness of Fairfield Glade. Question, comment. The 300 acres of land at Wildwood Stables with 5 buildings contains 12,700 square feet of inside space. The Cumberland County Tax Department appraised the land at $987,100 and the 5 buildings at $95,900 for a total of $1,083,000 in 2022. On page 8, under our brand position in the last sentence, Stables is listed as one of our amenities. I find no strategic plan for the Wildwood Stables, boarding of horses, horse rides, and wagon rides. Why is the future of Wildwood Stables left out of this strategic plan?
The future of Wildwood Stables is not, okay.
As I think you know, Nico, the board has been looking at this. We formed a committee. We have had a couple discussions, and we're still having discussions about what we're going to do with Wildwood Stables going forward. We specifically did not get that included in the strategic plan because we had a separate committee looking at it. Those recommendations will be brought forward and acted on and disseminated to the community when we finished our discussions at the board level.
Isn't the purpose of the strategic plan to be a separate entity from the board? And they should be coming up with something because this is a 5 or 10-year plan.
I told you how we're handling it, Nico, and that's the way we're doing it.
It seems like the strategic plan committee failed us. Thank you.
Ken Shika, I've been here for 20 years, lived in the Otter Creek area. Seen a lot of changes, most of them good, some of them not so good. I'd like to comment about the fees being tacked on for the buyer to buy a house here. It was a flat $5,000. If you're buying a $100,000 home, $1 million home, it's lost in the rounding. But if you're buying a $250,000 home, it turns out to be some money. So why don't you have a sliding scale?
That's a great question, and the answer is that the fee, the amenity reserve fee, is based on the users of the amenity, not the property. So it is a contribution to the amenities, the reserve fee, which basically accommodates, particularly for new residents, it's a contribution to the construction of the swimming pools, the building of the golf courses. So it really has nothing to do with the value of the property. It's geared toward the fact that the amenity use will go up.
That's understandable, but for the low...
Let me add one other thing. We have looked into this, and amenities are public or common areas. One can use them. Because you do use them or you don't use them is not the issue. They're there. And as a member, you have use of them. We have found that in other communities that tried to use sliding scales, they have been found to be illegal because it's a common area, not tied to anyone's. In other words, if I have a $100,000 home, the fact that I'm out playing golf is not any different than the person who has a $250,000 home. And you can't legally, in many cases that we've seen case law in, that says that you cannot make that differentiation based on the value of a home for a common item for the whole community.
Now, in one of the surveys, you asked people how our community is perceived by other people looking for property like ours. And the community said they want to be the best or almost the best community of our kind in the country. But when you ask that question, have you ever had a cost factor associated with being the absolute best and not necessarily the best?
I think the answer to that question is that we recognize we're not the best golf course, but I think it's a reasonable expectation that 90% of our members agree that we need to be in the top tier of golf courses and swimming pools and resort destinations in the country.
Now, if you were to ask that question and associate a price with these different tiers of quality, I would expect that people who have been here for 20 years or 10 years or just got here, their ability to enjoy and pay for the increased property fees is going to be significantly different. And if we keep getting better and better and raising our property fees, you're really squeezing hard the people who've been here a long time and living on fixed income. That's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Ed House. Whoops, wait a minute. I went through the strategic plan a couple of times, and I got a little bit of experience with strategic plans when I was in business. But where are the key performance indicators, the quantifiable metrics that are laid out as to, okay, we're going to do this by when, and what do we expect the success to be, and that type of thing. You know, we used to use timelines and, you know, take the objectives and stick them into the timelines and who's responsible for it. A lot of what I see in the plan is, okay, we're going to do this, but there's really no mention of how long are we going to take to do it, when are we going to do it, what do we expect the success or not success of this objective to be. So to summarize, I guess, where's the metrics?
That's a great question. As you know, this thing took a little longer to prepare than we thought it would. Some of that has to do with turnover on our committee. Some of this has to do with everybody who is not sitting at this table right here not raising your hand to be part of our committee. Some of that has to do with 4 general managers, 3 directors of finance, 2 members of the committee who went to be on the board or do other things. One of our committee members has some health issues in his family. And so the challenges of doing this all and keeping this not a 500-page report were substantial. Those metrics are the next phase that the Strategic Planning Committee will focus on, and they'll report back to the community along with measurements against those metrics as we move along.
When will that be?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
It's ongoing, and when we finish that phase, we'll present it.
I guess there should be a metric for that, I guess.
We will do it before the end of 2026.
Okay. Hope I'm still here by then. Is this, I see this says draft.
So are you asking if you can be on our committee to help with that process?
I don't think so, but
Why not?
yeah, well, that really wasn't my
You
question.
seem to be sort of knowledgeable about it. We would certainly embrace your filling out an application for us.
Yeah, okay. Nice try. The other part of this, it says draft on the thing. Is this finalized?
Well,
Or is
we put it out there for community comment, so we will see how those comments might cause us to revise it, and then we'll present it to the board of directors who will approve it.
Okay, and the last question I have is in health and safety. As far as, you know, the fire and that type of thing, I don't see anything in there about like EMTs, the ambulance service and things like that. To me, that should really, I don't know whether people realize, but sometimes it can take up to 20 minutes to get an ambulance. And if I'm having a heart attack, that's a long time to wait. And so I didn't specifically see anything. I know it says fire department in there, but one of the things that I would like to attend to is, you know, the service that we get as far as the ambulance and, you know, the EMT service and that type of thing.
If you see this gentleman down here, he's shaking his head. He's from our fire department group, and that's one of the key issues. And when you're talking about the strategic plan, you talk about timeframes and key performance indicators. We absolutely need that. And one of the questions we got online was prioritizing, because when you look at this document, there's a lot of stuff there, right? And it's based on the feedback and the information we gather. We still, on an ongoing basis, strategic planning doesn't stop. We're going to continue to develop the product. We're going to continue to look at the different things within the plan and prioritize those things against the things we have short term, the 1 year to 5 years. So we're looking at 5 to 10. So we have that process. We're going to continue to go. But as far as the EMT and the health and safety, that's going on today. There's groups looking at how we can continually improve our EMT and EMS and working with the county. So those things are going on. They're not necessarily mentioned in the strategic plan because the focus of this plan was 5 to 10 years, but it is definitely top of the list and something we need to continue to work on.
All right, because in my mind, the success of any strategic plan is based on the measurements and how well you succeed in those measurements. And without those, it's just a whole bunch of words on a piece of paper.
Yeah, not just strategic plan, but any type of plan needs to have the key metrics. And those are things we're going to look at. We're looking at as a board for not only the strategic plan, but for our operating and our annual. What do we want to accomplish? What are our goals? And what are our key performance indicators that we're going to watch as closely as possible to see the trends? Same with as you talked about the assessments the reserve, we got to monitor that. What is the impact on home sales and growth in the community and those types of things? So those are things we continue to improve short term, as well as looking with the strategic plan at the long term are things we need to get better at.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
My name is Lauren Hall. Thank you for taking our questions. I worked for a national insurance company for 30-some years, and one of my roles was strategic planning. One thing that we learned early on was to keep it simple. Keep it simple so that the folks sitting here today can leave this room understanding where we are and where we're going. And by doing that, then they can see the decisions, operating or strategic, that the board makes fits within that picture. So I think that's critical that everyone agrees with what's out there. We looked at best-in-class companies and how they painted that picture. One was they painted a picture that was inspiring. Two, they communicated what aspects of their organization or community was unique and special versus the competition and valued by the customers. And three, they identified who their targeted customer base was. And that's the issue I have with this strategic plan. When I read some of the documents in there, they talked about, I think the average age is like 68 years here. Somebody said we were one of the best retirement communities. You compared yourself to Tellico Village. So to me, that indicates that we are predominantly a retirement community. Don't know if that's true. I don't know what percent we would consider ourselves retirees, but I think it's pretty high. But when I look at that strategic plan in terms of the business you talk about we're in, the vision, the mission, I don't see retirement at all, okay? It's not mentioned one iota. And if I would take that strategic plan and go out 20 years and look at what this community would look like, I can't tell you. I don't know whether or not the demographics would change from where we are today to more families, kids, et cetera. I'm okay with that, but we need to understand changing dynamics means changing demands. Who knows? Schools, daycares, I don't know.
I think some of what we tried to do as a committee was to end the resort retirement community argument. So we just said lifestyle community. And if you look that up, generally speaking, a lifestyle community is a bunch of people who live in the same place who share common interests. If we call ourselves a retirement community, the gentleman that's standing behind you might take offense.
But he might not, because he's looking for a retirement community. And I'm okay changing the dynamics, okay? But we need to understand, starting getting families in here with kids, there's going to be different demands and different cost requirements.
Understand, and I guess part of what we tried to do as a committee was to keep our focus on 2034, that unless we specifically say something needs to change, it probably won't. Our growth trajectory, for example, won't change unless we do something to make it more or less. Mm-hmm. And that decision lies in our future somewhere. Now we have two people who have strategic planning committees experience who have not raised their hands in the last 18 months, and
I did. I sent a letter to the past president offering my assistance, never heard back.
Did you fill out an application?
Never heard back.
Did you fill out an application?
Let me finish, please. The committee sent out periodic things. I responded to them. I didn't know I had to fill out an application. I never heard back from you folks, okay?
Has anybody here gotten an email in the last few days that says our committees are looking for new people? Please fill out an application. Can I see a show of hands? I don't know what else we can do.
This was an ongoing process. They asked for feedback, okay? I was willing to give feedback. They didn't say join the committee. They said, let's have feedback.
Are you talking about this like in the last couple of weeks?
Well, whoever the prior president was, when it started to talk about doing strategic planning.
Oh, you're talking about going back to like 22.
Well, whenever they started,
okay.
Never heard back. And then as the work progressed, the committee sent out, here's progress. If you have any questions,
So
I-
Lauren,
but the problem is.
Lauren, you
forget
got a lot of
about that.
background. Are you still interested in helping out with the strategic plan?
More than happy to.
Okay, well, we'll keep that in mind.
If I was to, off the top of my head, say what our strategic plan should be, okay, it would become the premier, affordable, and active retirement, pre-retirement community in the United States.
Okay, yeah, we've had a lot of discussion about that as far as whether we include retirement or not. We talk about
But I think there's
resource
one
side.
aspect that makes us special that we need to embrace. Affordability. How can we be unique in affordability? The one word is Wyndham. I don't know if any other community has the revenue stream that we have coming from Wyndham that allows us to get a leg up on affordability as well as support some of our activities. So we need to do whatever we can to make Wyndham successful because that'll help us achieve what we want to achieve.
Absolutely agree.
All right.
Absolutely agree.
My name's Alexander Dossman. I've been a resident here for about 10 years, and I'm a little younger than the average. But thank you for taking questions. And I just have one main question. You mentioned sidewalks during the infrastructure planning section of your speech. And I was just wondering if there are any more in-depth plans for sidewalks in Fairfield Glade, as many residents and guests use them to ride bikes. And I've seen and I've rode bikes on them, and my dad and I walk on them every night. And I was wondering, well, they're degrading and very winding. So I was wondering if there are any plans to improve them for bike users and also extend them along other roads throughout Fairfield Glades so people can ride around more.
I don't know that there are specific plans to do improvements on sidewalks. I know that some of the answer to that question lies in individual subdivision regulations. So some of the subdivisions, for example, have curb and gutter and some don't. I think that the Strategic Planning Committee had significant discussions about improvement as it relates to bike trails, hiking trails, et cetera. And I know also that over the years that my wife and I have lived here, we have seen sidewalks go in where there were no sidewalks. We have seen chip and seal roads that get paved with asphalt. So we've seen sort of continuous improvement along that lines, and I have no reason to believe that won't continue. Does anybody over here have anything to add to that? I believe so, yes. Not sure about sidewalks. The question was, hasn't the Trails Committee been driving that? And I think they have as it relates to trails. In fact, that's expanded considerably since my wife and I have lived here for the last 10 years. Sidewalks, not so much.
I would say that, we get a lot more comments about road needs than we do sidewalk needs. And that's probably where we make our investments every year. We actually put additional money in our budget to do roads. Now, that doesn't mean that we haven't done some sidewalks. If you go up Catoosa, those sidewalks there, especially on the south side, were fairly new. They've been just done in the last couple of years. There are some areas that, quite honestly, would be very, very difficult to put sidewalks in because of the nature of the way the community got built out. And a good example of that is Stonehenge Drive, for instance, and some of the ones south of Peavine. Because the way the homes were constructed and the way the lands was laid out, that it makes it a little more difficult to put sidewalks there. So, it's something we look at, but if you were asking me, and this is my personal opinion, I'm not going to speak for the whole board on this one, but I think we look at roads first, okay? Because we still have needs where people don't have roads, all right?
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Tom Ratcliffe, a couple of things. Thank you, Ted. First of all, in terms of going back and looking at this and setting the KPIs and so forth, I understand it's early. I'm wondering, when you talk about under the section 5, the review and reporting, and there's a section in there where you talk about review and report progress on the strategic initiatives. And you talk about the committee being responsible to report to the board quarterly and the membership as directed. I think you got that a little bit flipped, and probably not flipped, excuse me. if you want us to understand the report and the progress of it, I think you have to be very definite that you're going to report out to us. And so I'd ask you to consider some form of a yearly State of the Union that you guys do, not the board. You guys do it as our strategic planning team, and tell us where we're at. I think that'd go a long ways.
Tom, I think that's a great idea, and I will tell you that in the first 5 months of 2024, our committee was meeting for a couple hours weekly. Not everybody was always there. People have vacations and personal lives. But your question about reporting to the community, we are actually a board of directors advisory committee.
I know.
So the reason that statement as directed is in there is it's not our decision to make.
I know.
This meeting today was not our decision to make. What we did was we went to the board and said, here's our proposed plan. They said, we like it. That was the last meeting with them. I won't tell you about the other three. We like it. When can you do it? We looked at the calendar, said September the 4th looks good, and here we are. And it says draft because that's what it is. Pursuant to the next board meeting, which is why we want your comments before September 20th, we will revise and present to the board again. And then it will be our strategic plan. Our next mission will be to work on some of those KPIs we talked about in consultation with our general manager, the board of directors, the senior management team, and others to begin to develop that tracking mechanism, and we'll report that to the board. And when we've reached a point where we think it would be meaningful and the rate of change has slowed, we'll come to the community. I'm sure the board will want us to do that.
Great, thank you. The other piece that I would take and ask is, you just talked about next steps, so that kind of helped. You wanted all comments in by the 20th. I assume you're going to compile them. Can you, or maybe you have and I haven't seen it, compile the questions that you're getting and put them out there for us to look at? The answers, we may have those same questions. We may have additional questions on it. Quite honestly, it's a pet peeve. We do this all the time within this community. Everybody does the same thing. Give us input, but then we never see it back. So I'd ask you to take and do that.
We'll make every effort to do that.
Thank you. And by the way, I just want to thank the group and the team. You really did a nice job, and I truly appreciate. Big thing, I hope it's a step in the right direction for us. You got us this stuff early before the meeting. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I kind of face things head on, and I came here to ask questions. And I don't appreciate being criticized for not joining the team or anything like that. So that's
you have my apology, but that's been one of our challenges over the last 18 months, and that is there are 5 active members of the committee now. We started with 7. And periodically, most recently in the last few days, we go out and we ask the community to raise their hands and participate. They don't.
Well, maybe that tells you something.
Well, not sure what it is. Maybe.
I don't know either. But I just wanted to tell you I didn't appreciate it.
Yeah, I understand. And like Phil said, we apologize. We appreciate you coming up to the mic and sharing your thoughts. And we do want to continue to get your input. This isn't a one-time deal, whether it's being a part of the committee or continue to give us feedback and information and your thoughts. Keep doing it. We want to hear from you, okay?
Yes, sir.
Well, first of all, I want to say thank you to the committee and to you specifically, Phil, for all the hard work. Because we're friends and neighbors, I know how much work went into that, so thank you. And there's one sentence to me that jumped off the page, and I mentioned to you and another board member before the meeting, and it's on the first page in the opening paragraph. It's the next to last sentence. And it reads, likewise, it must also be continuously updated, meaning the plan, to reflect changing conditions and community needs. This should never be regarded as a static document. It will surely fail if it's regarded that way. And so I would encourage the board to do as I've done in my previous practice, to open every board meeting with the question, where are we with our strategic plan? Because it helps keep the focus on those things that are most important, that community members like us have said that really matter and matter to the future of Fairfield Glade Community Club. So thank you.
Thank you, Dave.
Any strategic plan I've ever involved with has always been a living document. Every quarter it changes. And along those lines, you mentioned that you don't have any real metrics to back up any of this stuff, maybe until 2026. That sounds kind of like a black hole that we see in our government.
Soon. That's our next job.
If you want to develop credence in the community for what you're doing, and you're doing a great job, you really should come out with a punch list saying first quarter this, second quarter that, third quarter that, and then bring people up to date on how you're executing against plan. You mentioned you wanted metrics for various departments. This might be a metric for your department.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Steve Walter. First, I want to say appreciate all you do. Obviously, it's a lot of work. And obviously, nobody's ever going to be in complete agreement with what you do. I'm pretty much just trying to wrap my head around this whole thing. So my first thought when I saw this was, obviously, I don't understand how like a POA runs, because we can come up with all these plans. We did some surveys, but yet I guess we don't ever vote on anything with a POA. It just gets presented to us is how it works, I guess. So is that a correct assumption there?
Hello. That's correct. That's the way our covenants and restrictions are structured. We elect a board of directors to make those decisions because we have 9,000 residents here. And just in this room, there are probably 30 or 40 different ways of looking at things. And so those important decisions have to be made by a smaller group of people, and we elect our board of directors to do that. This is a $23 million company that's only purpose is to run these amenities on behalf of its membership. It says that in the CNRs. And there are some things that have to be voted on. It seems to me, is special assessment one of those? Well, this building burns down. We need a community center. We get everybody together, and 4,800 people don't want to spend the money, so we just don't have a community center anymore. We've seen that happen in other property owners associations. Well, the pool needs fixing, but we have 2 pools, so we'll just close that one. And we view that on the Strategic Planning Committee as a downward spiral. And so it's in our interest to elect board members that, and by the way, elections going on right now, that's why it's important. You want people who think like you do, because you know they're going to be making those decisions on your behalf. And we're pretty public on our board of directors about sort of announcing what's been thought about and putting the board members' email addresses out there. And my guess is they receive 1 or 2 comments as they're considering these things. I don't know that for sure because I'm not on the board, but I've heard that they get some email.
Okay, so just a clarification of how things work, which is kind of what I thought. So I read this thing on the website, the draft. So my understanding is we're going to replace Legends with another restaurant and a $16 million community center or something like that? Because I mentioned,
again-
one thing I mentioned is that for this
Again-
meeting, I would like to have seen pictures, because that's what I'm saying, I can't wrap my head up around what is actually we're planning here, because I can't visualize what we're even talking about.
With Druid Hills?
Yeah,
There's several pictures out there. So remember, we're talking about the strategic plan, the 5 to 10 year time frame. Druid Hills is a current project that's been going on for 6 years? Since 2021. So there's been numerous opportunities for the community to give input into the Druid Hills, and that's all been taken into consideration to get to the decision of where we're at today and where we're moving.
okay, because the clubhouse thing kind of took us by surprise. We knew they were going to replace the restaurant, but I guess train has already left the
Here you go, Greg.
station.
Greg.
I'll give you a couple things to look at. If you go on the member site and you'll see the Druid Hills tab on it on the first page, you can see all the presentations since 2021 that have been done on the Druid Hills Place. Also, if you take it the July 25th meeting, there's one up there, you'll see the breakout for all the cost for the Druid Hills project, what it's going for. Now, one of the big things people get confused on, they hear the 16.2 million, 9.9 million of that is for the clubhouse. There's a lot of changing of direction that we're doing there to get, right now today, if you go over there, we have delivery trucks and that type of thing running in the same place where we have people walking. We got to make that better. So there's a lot of other things going on there with the 16.2 million that is not the clubhouse per se, okay? So you got to be careful, but if you go to that presentation of July 25th, it breaks it all out for you. Shows you exactly what it goes for.
Yeah, I just didn't go back to 2021. I looked at the recent numbers and figures and everything. So I don't, to me, I don't know, when I first see this, to me, it looks like overkill. I don't really know. But a gentleman, a couple people back, mentioned about the ER services. I would definitely like to see, emphasis on that to maybe more of an extent as to the social whatever, because I just feel that's the healthcare to me is probably the biggest thing we're lacking in this community since I'm in that industry. That's something I would like to see be a higher priority. And then we talk about expectations.
Can I respond to that?
Yeah.
We made every effort to place, the survey made healthcare #1 priority.
Right.
That's nowhere in our amenity list. We do not have, as part of our community club, the only first responder organization that the community club manages is the police department. EMS is from the county, and the fire department is a separate organization, and Cumberland Medical Center, separate organization. That building over there, Cumberland Medical,
right.
Separate organization. And so what we tried to say in the strategic plan was, we need to positively influence that on behalf of our membership.
Okay.
Now, some of you may remember that several years ago we had a group that wanted to add an ambulance. Well, that's a $600,000 deal.
Okay.
And I asked the question, do we have any instances where response time yielded was the direct cause of a negative outcome? And the answer was, we don't know. Well, I spent some years in business, and if I had gone in to propose a $600,000 expenditure and got that question and said, I don't know, I wouldn't have been working for that company anymore. So we tried to craft wording that sends the message that it's a very important thing to our membership, even though we don't control it, so we need to do what we can to improve it.
Okay, and my last thought was, I write about doing some of these projects and future expectations. So if those future expectations aren't met, does that mean we subsidize that through our monthly fee, or what happens?
Future expectations.
Like for the new restaurant and things like that? But is that like not your field then for the restaurant?
What's that?
Is that not your field, the restaurant and the clubhouse and all that?
All these amenities, and I was going to talk about your healthcare. You know, one of the things that we do quite a bit is working with Covenant and their president and Express. We get the information and input from the community. We're constantly sharing that with those providers to let them know what we're hearing from the community. So we're not working in isolation. We have those relationships with the government entities, the healthcare providers, to continue to let them know what the interests and needs of our community are. There's certain amenities, there's certain things that we can do directly. Others we have to partner and we work those relationships. And those are a very important part of what we do.
Right. Okay, so back to the restaurant now. Is that part of the strategic plan, the Legends restaurant, or am I in the wrong category here?
Legends, no, Druid Hills.
Druid Hills, yeah.
That's part of the current plan.
Okay, and there's going to be a restaurant there, correct?
There will be a restaurant.
Okay, so I'm just saying, it sounds like a nice project, but if we don't meet future expectations, how does that get handled if it doesn't pay for itself?
Well, that's something we continue to monitor, especially with food and beverage. We're dealing. We manage it today with Bobby Jones Links. We continue to manage to ensure that we try to pay, whether it's amenities or food and beverage. We want to manage the subsidies. We don't want to over-subsidize anything.
Right.
But as a POA, we recognize that's part of our responsibility as a board to continue to monitor that and work either in partnership or directly with our senior management team to ensure that we're managing that appropriately.
Right, so of course we can't predict the future, but based on your research, is this reasonable to expect is it at least going to pay for itself?
If you go to the July 25th presentation, okay, on Druid Hills, you will see a slide in there that's a business case.
Yeah, I read all that, yeah.
And the business case tells you the participation rate that we need from the community. Now, if the community doesn't support it, yes, we have a problem. But if the community supports it at the numbers that we think are reasonable for that facility, then it will be self-sufficient.
Okay.
Okay?
That's what I'm looking for. All right.
Thank you.
Just since the conversation about committees has come up, and I was going to add it in my comments, but the strategic plan, there are a number of cases or situations where you talk about in the plan about the committee structure and so forth. Did you discuss at all, either as the group when you were putting this together, the use not just of our committee structure, that's the way we've got it, but modifications like ad hoc committees? Like you mentioned, you have to put together, moving forward, the KPIs and so forth. Maybe that's an ad hoc committee. Short duration, specific goals, people that are focused on it, they can take and go and handle it. The other part is just, you mentioned in here, but maybe being a little bit more specific about asking the board to change how the committees are formed. You get in for, how many years are you on for? Are you committed for?
3.
3.
Typically.
It's a long period of time. And I thank you for the time, but maybe that might have to change too.
Tom, that's a great point. I think the board is perhaps taking a look at that right now. But let me remind everyone, this plan is looking at 2034, not 2025. Yeah, there's maybe some things that we need to take as first steps, but those first steps might not occur for 5 years. This is not the Druid Hills plan. That's not even in our, there may be mention of it, but that process will be done before we present the 2027-6 strategic plan. That'll be a done deal. Then we'll be looking at tracking progress. But again, what we were more concerned with is when we have 14,000 people, are 2 restaurants going to be enough? At what point do we begin having conversations about building another one? Do we want to put a seafood restaurant overlooking Lake Dartmoor? Well, maybe, not right away.
Idea. Great
So,
idea.
so we were trying as a strategic planning committee not to look at next week, but rather to look at 10 years from now and begin to craft some of the steps that need to be taken to get there.
Bill, my name's Dave Globin, and I've been here 17 years. And I'm glad that you filled a position that needed to be filled. And I won't say no more about that. But I would like to ask you a personal question. Are you vested in this community? Do you plan to live here? Are you buying a home here?
I plan to leave here horizontally. I've been a homeowner here for 10 years and a resident for 11.
Oh, excellent. That's great. Our last one did not own a home for many, many years that he was the general manager. And he
I'm
was
not the
very-
general manager, but I appreciate the confidence.
Okay. Well, anyhow, you are Bill Ward, right?
Nope, I'm Phil Riley.
Where is Bill Ward? I've never been. I've
He's
never
over
met
there.
him.
There he is.
Bill Ward, you're the guy I wanted to ask that same question to. You live here? Awesome. Welcome. We're glad. We're glad. Okay, well, see that? I haven't been coming to the meetings because your meetings happen to conflict with what I'm doing. All right? And I am retired. I look, well, at least part.
I like your T-shirt.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Bill, the only thing that is on my mind is there's a whole lot of things going on with Druid Restaurant, which I've been in the food business for over 65 years, and we can't even run one restaurant without going into debt. And I'm concerned that spending all this money to build another restaurant, which I don't know that they've learned how to manage a restaurant yet, number one, let alone two, to add more to the fire. But that's my opinion. And I think the emphasis needs to be more on the fire department and EMS than it is on a restaurant and a bunch of other things, okay? And that's because of our age. We live here, we're retired. And you can see that ambulance going up and down the road here many times on a weekly basis. So the priority, I think, ought to be that. And that's all I got to say.
Thank you.
Ted Landers, two comments. The first is we have a dead area in cell phone coverage on the north end of our property, and I don't see anything in the strategic plan that's talking about doing that, and that's a real safety issue. If you can't get cell phone coverage for calling for help when you need it, that's a big issue. So I don't know who should be responsible for doing that, but that's something that definitely should be up near the top of the list.
Well, we did mention third-party negotiations with utilities, communications providers, et cetera, but that really is more about accommodating growth. I think if you've got that kind of a situation, I would talk to Bill about that and see if he has any ideas about how you might be able, is that the property,
I understand.
The general manager?
Ted, you're absolutely right. That's just part of the overall infrastructure and strategic imperative, is whether it's sewer, whether it's water, electricity, whether it's coverage, those are all things we need to ensure that we're addressing either directly or in partnership with those providers to ensure that they're able to accommodate our growth. And if there's dead zones today,
there are.
I know there are, because I hit them too. I don't know who your provider is, but have you contacted them about your dead zone?
Well, my dead zone is fine because I live by Stonehenge.
Because we don't, you know, as a
But when I
club,
go
we're not
visit-
providing the
when I
things,
go
but we can
visit-
take that input and you can share it with Bill. And as we're having our conversations with the various providers, we can mention that.
When I visit my friends, I don't have coverage. I get cut out in the middle of conversations. I drive for Fairfield Glade Resident Services, and there are times that I'm trying to call them to tell them I'm on my way to pick them up, and I'm in a dead zone.
Yeah, I understand.
That's a problem. People on the hiking trails, they can't connect. And if they have an accident, break an ankle, and let's be honest, there is no place in America that people don't expect to have cell phone service now.
Absolutely agree. And that's been part of the strategic conversation.
So that's
that
got to
Growth and
be
Fairfield.
right up at the top to be able to meet people's needs.
Yep,
So,
understand.
So I just wanted to point that out. And the second thing, which didn't get mentioned here, is that makes it a little bit difficult, is that it's my understanding, you can correct me if I'm wrong on the information, that every 5 years, 20% of our population is different, either through growth, people moving, health issues that they leave, whatever. And so it's hard to plan for people when 20% changes every 5 years. Is that correct number, by the way? I don't know, Ted. I've heard that somewhere, so.
That's an interesting question, and I think our strategic planning committee can maybe dig up enough facts to either confirm or deny. I can tell you that what we know is that our population average age is going up. That's sort of counterintuitive. We would have thought it would go down because of work from home and younger people retiring earlier, living longer, all of those kinds of things. I think the living longer is probably the upward pressure, and that is people are living longer than they used to. It's gone up every census since 2000.
Hi, my name is Elaine Gifford. We just moved here in the beginning of this year, and sorry if this doesn't fit a normal question. We just didn't know. As far as Peavine and the businesses there, is there any part of their business that goes towards the community, or is there not a kickback, but is there a percentage or something?
I think the short answer there is no.
Okay. Now,
some of our businesses here, if you want to consider, for example, Wyndham,
oh yeah, that's different.
that's a business,
Yeah.
pay homeowners assessments on the land they occupy. As far as I know, that's the only money changing hands between a business entity and Fairfield Glade.
So as far as land, where does it end that you cover?
You can find that information in the tax records.
Okay.
Or you can look at a map of Fairfield Glade that I think they have up at the front desk there.
Okay.
And that'll kind of show you that.
Okay.
Wiggles, Waggles, whatever they call themselves, is not on Fairfield Glade land.
Okay.
There are a couple, well, I shouldn't say a couple, there are several businesses that do sponsor Fairfield Glade. And we encourage you to use them as customers because they make donations to us every year. And they come a couple times a year, and you'll see them at the fairs that we have, the participation fairs.
Right.
And you get a chance to meet them, and they'll usually have a little giveaway or something.
Yeah.
But I encourage you to use those people and use them because they do directly donate to us.
Okay. Because I was just thinking, as far as golfing, I know that's big here, and it's beautiful. But like, we don't really even have like a coffee shop with a drive-through that would make tons of money. And I just didn't know if that was possible as far as in the strategic plan to influence like a Dunkin' Donuts or Starbucks or, you know, to come here.
We have had, from time to time, coffee shops here. I couldn't tell you, well, I think there is one, but I think we run it, don't we? It's not a third party. Yeah. There's a Starbucks at Food City, and that's a real Starbucks. It's a, they lease space
But
from
that
Food
doesn't
City.
help us, and
It
that's
doesn't.
not a drive-through.
I know that the developer, the
Yes.
declarant, as we call him,
Okay.
who basically purchased that title or right or whatever you want to call it from Wyndham some years ago, did a lot of investigating because his dream was to take the Mirror Lake parking lot and put shops around it and, you know, sub shop, pizza, whatever wouldn't compete with the community club, coffee. He couldn't find any operators that wanted to make the investment. Now, I don't think our community has seen the last, this is a personal opinion, I don't think our community has seen the last of the impact of a 4-lane highway coming in here. Probably most of you who've been here a long time remember when that was less than a 4-lane highway. Second time I came here at night in the fog coming up Peavine Road. That was an experience. That's what turned my hair gray. So I don't think we've seen the last of that development.
But I didn't know if in the strategic plan somehow there's a motivation, even in the Village Green. I mean, we moved in and heard there was a pizza parlor there, and by the time we made it there in like 3 weeks or something like that, it was already closed up, and we haven't seen anything there yet. And so is there enough, like...
As far as I know, there's no plan to have some kind of a drive-in coffee shop that is...
Or bakery,
owned and operated, or bakery, or deli. Village Green is one of those. It's a private owner. They pay assessments for the land they occupy. As I understand it, they're a condominium. Is that correct? So each of those stores is separately owned.
Okay.
There is a homeowners association that, you know, pays the assessments and all that. But those are businesses.
Yeah, it just seems that if we can try to do restaurants, which everybody knows is a really difficult thing, if we could do smaller things that would benefit the community and just add, even Wyndham, I would think, would appreciate something like that.
Well,
but that's just my opinion.
I think that's a great idea personally. I don't mind paying the $5 a month I have to pay to have restaurants that are not 15 miles away. I would not mind paying $1 a month to have a coffee shop.
Right.
But from the applause that the subsidy thing got, there's a lot of people in the room that don't feel that way. So, and by the way, I don't think it's even $5 anymore. It's probably more like $3.50.
I'm just thinking of ways to make money for the whole community. So, thank you.
Open up a coffee shop.
Thank you.
Ken Chika again. 2 comments. I've been coming to these meetings for 18 years. They've always talked about restaurants. We need better restaurants, new restaurants, but they're always losing money. They will always lose money in a community like this. Now, it's probably going to be even more loss because when some restaurants in the Glade are offering hamburgers special for $18, that's not going to be a big seller for 90% of the people of the community.
But if you present your membership card, you'll get $3.60 off of that price.
And I wouldn't go for a $15 hamburger either. But
well,
anyway.
How much does it cost you to drive downtown and back? That's a 30-mile round trip.
We make a great hamburger at home for about $3.
Well, there you have it.
All right.
So do I.
But that's not the reason for being up here. You guys have done an amazing job on coming up with a 10-year plan. The average age in the Glade is now approaching 70. A lot of us aren't going to be here in 10 years. I think we'd be more interested in having a 3- or 5-year plan with more specifics about what's going on in the community.
Ed House again. Excuse me. Well, my last name's not again, it's just Ed House.
Let me respond to the question about the 5-year, 3-year plan. If you come to our budget presentation, which will be the 3rd Friday in November, yeah, third Friday in November, you will see a 5-year capital plan. You will see a next year's budget plan. You will see the major activities that we see coming in the next 3 to 5 years. We do that every year. And so I encourage you to come, because that's where we lay out a lot of the activities and things that are going to be happening, certainly for the next year, and looking out even 3 to 5 years for the capital. Okay?
One other thing I forgot to point out, and that is you personally, each person in this room can personally favorably impact restaurant subsidies by eating at our restaurants. Yes, sir.
Okay, first I'd like to make a comment. I don't think a lot of people watch the board meeting and the board workshop on YouTube, and it's a vast amount of knowledge there. You can back it up, fast forward for the stuff that you aren't interested in. But if you really want to know what's going on, unfortunately, when I look at the number of people who look at that, it's probably 80, 90, and we've got 9,000 people that live in here. It's really poor. So if you really want to know, you don't have to go there. All you got to do is turn your TV on, go to YouTube, and do a search on Fairfield Glade board meeting or Fairfield Glade workshop, and you can sit right in on the whole thing. That was
very, very good paid political announcement. I want to add on to that. We presented in May a 10-year capital plan. We had about 50 or 60 people here in the audience, and about 87 or 88 that watched it on YouTube. And that's very disappointing. We try to get people here so that you can hear what we're trying to do and you can react to it. So we want the dialogue. But I encourage you to get involved with committees. I encourage you to attend the board workshops and the meeting and the board meetings themselves. I encourage you, if you can't do that, to get them on YouTube. All the big meetings that the board has, including this one, are being sent out on the waves. So please, 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 I encourage you to get involved. This is your community. It's not just ours. We're just members like you. We just happen to be sitting in a board seat, for instance. So it's up to every single person sitting here to really make this community what it needs to be.
I had another comment, and a couple of us have spoken about the emergency medical response and the fact that the strategic planning committee, or not the committee, but the plan, doesn't appear to have any emphasis on ambulance service and what the fire department does. Went to a Conrad tour this morning to the fire department, and they do a fabulous job, but they could do so much more. I implore the board, the strategic planning committee, to try to incorporate what for emergency medical services, because I think you spoke before about there was a survey or something, and we wanted an ambulance, and nobody wanted to pay $600,000. I can be darn sure if any one of you have a heart attack and you're waiting there for it, because I've had a heart attack, you're waiting there for 20, 25 minutes for an ambulance, that's $600,000 doesn't mean a whole hell of a lot. So if we could just look at that and try to support the fire department in respects with the emergency services, I think that would really help all of us. Thank you.
I do have something else. You mentioned a developer. We don't ever hear from this guy or know what he's up to. Is he invited to these meetings? Is he aware of what's going on with us?
He owns, at last count, I think 13 pieces of property here, and we have his email.
Do we have a map of what he owns?
I would refer you to the state, the state of Tennessee property tax map, and look at FGH properties, and it'll show you all of them. The other thing is that he has a representative on our board of directors. So as was previously noted, most of his input comes to the community club through that representative.
Is he here?
No.
Does he ever come to one of these meetings?
Yes.
Oh. Well, I think I mean, as much as he's involved in this community, we ought to hear from him sometime.
Well, he lives out of town. Let's
Bill?
start there. He lives.
You gonna make that happen? All right, that's all. I'm done.
I don't disagree that it's good to hear from the developer. We very seldom hear from him as a board level, but the fact of the matter is he is the declarant here, the developer, and we will encourage him to come, but it's up to him.
I have a lot of questions, but why does he have a vote? He never shows up.
Because he has 13 pieces of property.
So if I own 13 pieces of property, I could get on the board and vote?
No, you could get 13 votes. Everybody says, well, Wyndham has too much power. Wyndham has power because they have 1,300 pieces of land.
1,300 is a lot different
Okay,
than 13.
there's two different things here going on. One is by the CNRs, the governing documents that were put out in 1997, the declarant is given a seat on the board. And as long as we're in a time frame that we're going to be developing homes, he can name a person to represent him on the board.
How do we change that?
Pardon me?
How do we change it?
Well, that would take, because the board, also in the CNRs, if you want to, if let's say we took it out for a vote to remove the declarant, he can veto that. Now, that's what was signed in 1997 by the people that formed Fairfield Glade Community.
And all of you read that before you bought here. That's called due diligence. My wife and I spent several hours going through that.
So the likelihood of even talking about removing the declarant from the board seat or anything else is probably slim and none, and probably really down to none.
Oh, brother. Well, I've got a lot of things I've been writing down. Fire department, police, and ambulance, we need it, period. I don't care. I don't care about a restaurant. If I'm dead, I don't care about another restaurant.
That's why it's one of our 7 items, health and safety.
Well, let's put it at the top of the list. Not a restaurant.
Healthcare is
I
number
don't
one.
go to the restaurants. I don't play pickleball. I don't do tennis. I don't do golf. I want a decent road. I haven't had a road in 20 years. Beechwood, it's been chip and sealed. Right now, you go down and it's a dust storm. Okay. Like I say, I don't use the amenities. I don't want the money put into more amenities. I've expired to be on a committee, and they told me, oh, you got to be secret. You can't tell anything that happened in that committee. I said, I'm not a secretive person. If you know me, you know everything about me. So I'm not on a committee. Like I say, and this $5,000 for people to move in here, you are just putting the kibosh on people moving here. I mean, I want a stove and a refrigerator
that were
and a roof.
pertinent to our strategic plan?
Okay, the 5,000, let me repeat, is ridiculous.
You need, I would forward that comment to the board of directors.
Okay.
Any other comments regarding the strategic plan?
Plan to get my road done.
I think there's a gentleman you can contact, and he will tell you what the future plan for that road is. Am I right? Sam McAdoo can tell you what the plan is. Any other comments? Thank you for your comments and questions. I would ask that those of you that had like 5 questions, you probably noticed that I was not taking notes. I would ask you, in the announcement for this meeting, there's an email address. It's hard to remember, strategicplanning@fairfieldglade.cc. Please send your comments there so that we don't have to reconstruct everybody's memory of your question. Rather, we have your question in writing so that we can republish it to the community just as you wrote it. Is everybody willing to do that? Thank you. One more slide. This is the pitch where we say that volunteerism is what makes this community work. Yeah, some of the times you got to sign a non-disclosure agreement. That's because this committee spent a lot of time putting yellow sticky notes up on a board. We don't want them ending up on Nextdoor the following day, because that just never ends. So what we do is we ask our committee members not to discuss stuff that's not published. I think that's fair. Please raise your hand and join a committee in our community, not necessarily the Strategic Planning Committee, but we can use the help in all of our committees. There's a long list of them in the latest email. It's the first time I've seen one that long, Pat, because we're all looking for help from all of you. So come on down.